What's going on, everybody, and welcome to my review of Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, released in 2016 and directed by Zack Snyder. When this movie was announced, it immediately felt like an event. Just the idea of these two titans, Batman and Superman, sharing the screen was something fans had dreamed of for decades. And not only that, but it was the follow-up to Man of Steel, a film that already brought a lot of discussion and passion to the table. Zack Snyder returned to direct, this time with a larger scope, more characters, and bigger stakes. It's one of those films where the ambition is undeniable. It's swinging for the fences constantly, and whether it works for you or not really depends on how much you're willing to go along with its tone, style, and thematic approach. For me, it's a fascinating, messy, bold, and visually rich movie that I've found myself appreciating more with time, especially in its Ultimate Edition form. This movie has always been one of the most divisive superhero films of all time. When it dropped, it basically split the internet. Some people saw it as bold and ambitious, others thought it was a complete train wreck. I used to be more on the negative side, especially after seeing the theatrical version, which cut out a ton of important scenes. But after watching the Ultimate Edition, I started to better appreciate Snyder's vision. I still don't love everything about it, and there are things in it that genuinely frustrate me, but after a few rewatches, I've learned to enjoy it for what it is, a flawed but very watchable and kind of fascinating superhero movie. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice tells a story of conflict, fear, and misunderstanding as two of the world's most iconic heroes are set on a collision course. In the aftermath of Superman's battle in Metropolis, Bruce Wayne grows increasingly concerned about the unchecked power of this alien being. Haunted by the lives lost and the destruction caused, he begins to see Superman as a potential threat to humanity. Meanwhile, Clark Kent starts investigating Batman, the brutal vigilante operating in Gotham, questioning Batman's brutal methods and whether he's really a hero. As their tension builds, both men struggle with their own inner demons and what it means to truly be a symbol of hope. But behind the scenes, Lex Luthor is pulling the strings, manipulating events to push the two heroes into a deadly battle. And while Batman and Superman fight each other, a much bigger threat is quietly forming, one that will force them to put aside their differences and face the real danger together. Starting off with the positives regarding this movie, the main positive for me, like with Man of Steel, is the special effects. Visually, the movie is incredible. Zack Snyder knows how to make big moments feel huge and cinematic. The destruction, the flying, and the battles, everything just looks massive and polished. Even when I have issues with the story or pacing, the look of the film always keeps me invested. The way the action is shot, the way the cityscapes are framed, and even the quieter moments with lighting and color, it's just beautiful stuff. The Doomsday fight at the end, for all its problems, still looks great from a visual standpoint. Same with Batman's nightmare sequence. Whether it's a dream, a flashback, or an epic showdown, Snyder's eye for visuals is always one of the strongest parts of his movies. The action in this movie is also pretty great. The warehouse fight with Batman is honestly one of the best action scenes in any Batman movie. It's brutal, fast, and really shows off how tactical and dangerous Bruce is. I also love the actual Batman vs. Superman fight. It's not super long, but the brutality of it is really satisfying. You really feel the weight behind each punch. My only real issue with it is that it happens way too soon in the series. This fight could have been a huge payoff if the DCEU was more developed, but instead, it kind of just comes out of nowhere in the second movie. Still, in terms of choreography and execution, it's a blast to watch. Story-wise, I think the movie's actually pretty decent and surprisingly engaging. There's a lot going on, maybe too much, but it held my attention the whole time. There are political angles, media debates, public fear, philosophical themes, and moral questions all crammed into one movie. It can definitely feel overloaded at times, but I appreciated the ambition. The way it explores Superman's impact on the world and how Bruce sees him is a great concept. I just wish it had more breathing room. Still, it kept me hooked and had some solid moments of character work, especially with Bruce Wayne. I also think the cinematography is amazing. There are so many cool and thoughtful shots. One that really stood out to me is when Bruce visits his parents' grave, and the shot lingers on his face, half in the light and half in the dark, which is such a clever way to show his inner conflict. Another awesome shot is in the third act when Batman jumps onto a building just as a bolt of lightning hits. It's quick, but it looks so comic book-y and cool. The way the camera frames moments in this movie just makes it feel bigger than life. You can tell Snyder treated this like art, and while some of it can feel overly serious, the visual storytelling is still top-notch. The music is also incredible. I actually think it's even better than the score in Man of Steel. Hans Zimmer and Tom Hokenborg put together a soundtrack that feels epic and emotional. The Wonder Woman theme is awesome and kicks in at the perfect time. Superman's theme has this big emotional swell to it, and Batman's theme is dark and intimidating. Every major character feels like they have their own musical identity, and the score really helps sell the dramatic moments. Now, as much as I enjoy this movie, there are definitely some big issues. Starting with Lois Lane. Her role in the third act is all over the place. At one point, she throws the kryptonite spear into a pool to get it out of the way, but it ends up backfiring when they realize they need it to stop Doomsday, so she goes back to get it and ends up stuck underwater. This forces Superman to stop fighting and go save her, risking everything. Then, after being saved, she throws the spear again. It's frustrating because she's supposed to be smart and capable, but her actions here just don't reflect that at all. I didn't love her in Man of Steel, but she's written even worse here. That whole spear subplot just didn't work for me and made her character feel like a plot device more than a person. Doomsday is another major problem. I like his design for the most part. The CGI actually looks really good, but the way he's used in the story feels rushed and pointless. He's basically created just to kill Superman, and it feels like they shoved in a major comic book moment without earning it. In the comics, Doomsday is a big deal. Here, he's just the third act monster. He doesn't have any real presence or personality, and it feels like they wasted a really cool villain just to push the Justice League story forward. It's frustrating because I love Doomsday as a character, and they didn't do him justice here at all. The whole movie feels rushed in a lot of ways. The Batman vs. Superman fight is epic, but it happens way too soon. It's like the movie is racing to get to Justice League without taking the time to build the world properly. You've got Lex Luthor scheming, Doomsday showing up out of nowhere, Wonder Woman being teased, Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg all shoved into little clips. It's just a lot. There's too much crammed in, and even though the Ultimate Edition fixes a lot of the flow, I still think about 20 minutes could have been cut to make it tighter and more focused. And then there's Lex Luthor, who is easily the weakest link for me. Jesse Eisenberg is just bizarre in this role. He's twitchy, giggly, weirdly obsessed with candy, and just feels like he's in a completely different movie. Every time he shows up, it pulls me out of the story. I get that they were going for a different kind of Lex who is more modern and tetchy, but it just doesn't work for me. He's not intimidating, not clever, and his motivations are a mess. One of the biggest problems I have with Lex Luthor is that he somehow knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman and Clark Kent is Superman, and the movie never explains how he figured it out. That's a huge piece of information, and the movie just acts like it's normal. There's no reveal, no discovery, and no moment where we see Lex connect the dots. He just knows, and that takes away a lot of the tension. Part of what makes villains scary or clever is seeing how they manipulate the heroes or outsmart them. But here, it's like he skipped a step. And it's not like he's spying on them all the time either. There's no clear setup. He just randomly knows Bruce's deepest secret and Clark's biggest weakness, and the film treats it like no big deal. It feels lazy, like the writers just needed Lex to move the plot forward without earning it. And when your entire plan revolves around pitting two heroes against each other, at least show how you got that information. It's one of those things that makes Lex's character feel even more unconvincing and forced. There are also pacing problems all over the place. For example, Superman and Batman go from wanting to kill each other to being best friends in one scene. That switch just doesn't make sense. Even the opening scene, which I think is brilliant in how it shows the destruction of Metropolis from Bruce's perspective, has logic issues. Bruce is racing through a city that's already falling apart, and yet his company is still working. There's even a guy waiting for Bruce's call before evacuating. It's little stuff like that that just ruins the entire scene. But now let's talk about the Martha scene, because it is easily one of the most talked about and memed moments in the entire movie, and honestly, for good reason. I actually think the idea behind it is really smart, using something deeply personal and emotional to break through Batman's rage and remind him of his humanity is a great concept. It's powerful on paper. Batman has spent the whole movie building up Superman in his mind as this dangerous alien who has to be stopped at any cost, and then in the middle of their brutal fight, Superman pleads with him to save his mother. And for a split second, Bruce realizes that Clark is just a man with people he loves, just like him. That should have been a huge turning point, but the way they actually do it in the movie is just so weird and awkward. Henry Cavill's delivery of "you're letting him kill Martha" sounds stiff and unnatural, and then Ben Affleck just starts yelling, "Why did you say that name?" over and over again like a confused robot, and it totally kills the moment. Instead of being emotional or impactful, it just feels goofy. It doesn't help that the movie never really builds up a strong connection between Superman and his mother beforehand she's there, but the emotional weight of her doesn't feel fully developed in the story, so the Martha name drop doesn't land the way it was supposed to. And because of how it plays out, it became an instant meme, which only makes the scene feel even less serious. It's one of those moments where you can see what the filmmakers were trying to do, and the idea was actually kind of brilliant, but the execution was so cheesy and bizarre that it just falls flat. It's a shame, because this was the moment that was supposed to bring the two heroes together and change the entire tone of the movie, and instead, it's remembered as a joke. So, while the scene's heart was in the right place, it's awkward. Delivery and lack of build-up turned what could have been a powerful turning point into a meme-worthy moment that undercuts the movie's emotional core. There's also some humor in the movie that just doesn't work. I get that it's trying to lighten the mood now and then, but lines like "I thought she was with you" in the third act just fall flat. It feels forced and out of place in a scene that's supposed to be big and serious. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's another example of the movie not knowing what tone it wants to stick with. So overall, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is a movie I find myself revisiting and thinking about more than most superhero films. It's flawed, but ambitious, emotional, and filled with moments of real power. I completely understand why it's divisive, and I think some of the criticisms are fair, but at the same time, it's a film that swings big, and that's something I always respect. It's one of the most visually distinctive and thematically rich entries in the genre, and it set the stage for a version of the DC universe that, while short-lived, had a unique identity. I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I do think it's way more interesting than it gets credit for. For all its highs and lows, I'm going to give Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice a 7.5 out of 10. So, what do you guys think of this movie? Do you love it, think it's just okay, or maybe even dislike it? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to comment below. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. I really appreciate your support. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.